Random hotel encounters. It is said that hotels around the globe are haunted due to the many sick cases that happen within the rooms, whether they are murder or suicide. Being a high-ranking personnel in the hotel working out hours, Jack had the privilege of being privy to all the ghostly encounters. The first case he was willing to divulge is of a hotel cleaning crew. Doing his morning rounds, a hotel cleaning staff found a girl squatting down in the corridor with her hands wrapped around her knees and her head hiding between her legs, crying. Her hair fell all around her, obscuring her face. With the child appearing to be no older than perhaps 4 or 5 of age, the cleaning staff was extremely worried. He tried talking to her and asking her where were her parents, but the child continued crying. Walking back to his trolley, he grabbed a bottle of water to try get the child to drink the water, but the child refused his offering without even looking up. Not knowing what to do, he figured he could persuade her to stop crying with some candy. He then left for the cafeteria to get some treats for the child. When he got back, the child was no longer there. Figuring that the child's parents had finally found her, he continued his duties. But still feeling unsettled and worried about the child's well-being, he decided to go to the security room to check the CCTV cameras to ensure that the child's parents had indeed came to get her, and she did not just wander off. Upon hearing his request, the security personnel agreed to let him view the recording to ensure that the child was in safe hands. Upon coming upon the appropriate clip, they sat down to watch the recording. The video showed the cleaning staff talking and gesturing to empty air. There was nobody there. This is the first story from Jack. The second story involves a hotel front desk staff delivering an item to a guest. Being a late and quiet night, the hotel staff was alone in the lift. Heading up to the 21st floor, the doors opened on the 14th floor. There was an old couple standing outside waiting to board the lift. Politely standing aside and holding the door open for them, the couple shook their heads, smiled at him, and said that they would wait for the next lift. Bidding them a good evening, he then released the button holding the door open. As the lift doors were closing, the man told the hotel staff, "The lift is full anyway, we won't be able to get in." Just before the lift doors closed, the lift was empty. To this day, the staff does not know if the couple were humans who can see spirits, or whether they were spirits themselves. He just stood silently in the lift and got out on the 21st floor as fast as he could. Our daughter. We moved into a new-to-us house 6 months ago. There are 2 large bedrooms upstairs, and 2 small bedrooms on the main floor. My husband and I take one of the upstairs bedrooms, and our 2-year-old daughter is in the other. Since moving in, she's been a bad sleeper, up several times during the night, sometimes crying, sometimes talking. We put an extra bed in her room and take turns sleeping with her so at least one of us gets a decent night of sleep. The ceilings slope in the bedroom, and the only window is at the end of the room, so we have a twin bed on each side of the window with a 6-foot space between the beds. Our daughter is very active, walks, talks, crawls, and climbs. One night, it's my turn to sleep with her. She gets into bed with me, lying alongside me. I don't know what time it is, but it's dark outside, though we get a bit of light from the neighbor's garage through the blinds that don't quite close. Usually, when she talks or gets up, I ignore her. I don't want her to wake up even more. I even keep my eyes closed lest we make eye contact, and it's game on, as she's up for the day. But this night, she gets in bed and is still. I'm sleeping on my stomach, and she moves so she's laying on my back. She's a solid 2-year-old and quite heavy, so I shift a little to get her to move, but not fall off me. She keeps climbing and putting her arms around my neck. She's cold, but it's a chilly night, and if she's climbing on me then she's just not been covered by a blanket. She's very persistent, and this feels like it's going on forever. I'm getting frustrated that she's not just going back to sleep. She's on my back, scooching down and laying on my legs, then back up to my back with her arms around my neck. I finally crack and say, "Will you please just go to sleep?" At which point my daughter, from the other bed across the room, asks, "What's that, Mummy?" The weight on my back instantly lifts, and I look over to see my daughter sitting up in bed, literally on the other side of the room, looking at me. I take her and book it into the main bedroom. The next day, we move her bed to a downstairs bedroom and take turns sleeping on the floor next to her bed. Nothing felt ominous, just somewhat playful, though I'm not eager to experience it again. The Kidnapping Ghost. In 1998, Joe relocated from California to Georgia to work as a manager at an auto body shop with his cousin. Soon after, Joe's brother followed him to the Peach State and rented a small house built in the late 1800s. It looked nice from the outside. It did not feel good from the inside. Joe said on the podcast, "Things were off from the moment he helped his brother move into the house. I walked into the house and went, oh man. The hair stood up on the back of my neck and I just felt ill at ease, like this place isn't cool at all," he said. Moments later, while carrying items into the bedroom, Joe says he heard whispering. A heated whispering, almost an argument, between two people that seemed to be hovering in the top of the ceiling area of the room, he added. Joe ran out of the room and asked his brother if he'd felt something off about the house, too. His brother had picked up on the vibe, but after praying on it, his brother said he felt that things would be alright. "As long as you're good," Joe said. "I'm not good, but I'm going to help you, but I'm going home and I probably won't come back here." In the weeks that followed, there were more unusual occurrences, including a terrifying event in which Joe's 8-year-old nephew was taking a bath and sat up to find an elderly man in the tub with him. It took about 2 days to calm him down, and he never took baths after that, Joe said. After falling asleep on the couch one night, Joe's brother awoke to find an elderly man and woman seated on either side of him arguing back and forth over whether or not they were going to allow the brother and his family remain in the home. The kicker, however, was when Joe's brother asked to borrow his truck one afternoon, after receiving word that his 4-year-old daughter had been found wandering along a busy road by herself with her hand up in the air. Police and other agencies were called in to investigate, and when asked, the 4-year-old explained she'd just gone for a stroll with the old lady. "What old lady?" Joe's brother asked. "The old lady that lives here," his daughter replied. "She just wanted to go for a walk, so we went for a walk." The front door was far too heavy for a 4-year-old, so everyone was perplexed how she was able to leave the house. "The old lady opened the door, then we petted the dog for a little bit, then went for a walk," she explained. She was so genuine and honest at 4 years old that he couldn't call her liar, Joe said. Shortly after, his brother moved out of the house and never went back. Joe still drives by the house nearly every day. It looks like a perfectly normal, acceptable house, except for what's inside. The Black Dog. I met my boyfriend when I was 16. Drugs had saturated our area. To party, we would ride down the mountain in his black Honda Civic, out the several miles of gravel road to the army camp at the river to party. This particular night there was going to be a meteor shower, and we wanted to see it. We crept through the darkness, down the winding mountain, across the bridge, down the access road towards the river. I had been there 100 times. The night felt unreasonably dark. Heavy, almost. There were no real residences on this road that led right to the waters of the freezing New River. I was not really a believer of anything supernatural. I'm still really skeptical. We were rumbling down the road, and nothing seemed out of place until we saw it. In the road ahead, a black dog. Not a wolf, but easily just as big. A Great Dane, if I've ever seen one, and I had not in real life. There are no residences, nothing around that would make you think that this expensive dog would be on this road. But there it stood in our headlights, and my boyfriend rolled to a stop as we looked at it. It was kind of postured. I don't know. It was illuminated by our headlights, hackles up in a way I'd never really seen. It just stood there. He beeped his horn and started creeping closer in the car. This dog did not care, was seemingly unconcerned. The closer we got, the more unreasonably unnerved I felt. It was just staring at us. Like I could feel its gaze. Through the windshield. Until it was practically against the bumper, and it was not going to move. We were at a standoff. So, my boyfriend went around. He painstakingly cut his wheels, went off the gravel road to go around this unmoving hulk of a black dog. If it was in the middle of the road, we veered to the left of it so that it was on my side as we moved past. I remember how it stared at me. It was so tall that it was eye level with me in the passenger seat. I remember begging him to hurry past because there was this awful feeling that it was aware of my discomfort. I'll never forget staring into its shock yellow eyes, right at eye level, as we veered around. It stared at me, unmoving, unbothered. Then we just rolled around it. Its head didn't move, it didn't adjust its gaze as we continued. It disappeared into the inky darkness of that road, and I felt so cold. So upset. We got to the river, and I refused to leave the car. I had this unmistakable feeling that that thing was still out there. Just beyond the trees. Somewhere out in that pitch black. There was a meteor shower that night, and I barely watched it through the car's sunroof, because all I felt was that gaze, those horrible yellow eyes. It was still out there. I never liked going back to the river after that. I can't even describe the sense of dread, the feeling of a thing being so out of place. I never saw it again, though. But I'll never forget it. I never knew something that seemed so common. It was just a dog, could make me feel such deep dread, such palpable unease. Even now, thinking of those eyes makes my throat tighten. I feel like I saw the devil that night. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and stay tuned for another episode tomorrow.